Welcome
to the Joy of Code!
Hello, and welcome to episode 355 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. We're going to be hacking on some Firefox stuff. We might review a patch. We might work on some Windows jump list stuff again. It's been a while since we talked about that. And let's get right into it. Let me start by sharing my screen. There it is. Yeah, it's February 14th, 2024, episode 355. A reminder, I say this every time, no plan survives breakfast. I think I know what I want to do today. I think I know what I'm going to focus on and what's gonna happen. I don't know. You know, stuff suddenly could occur out of the blue. Things, I might get interrupted with a task, or we might get stuck on something. Who knows what'll happen? You're not watching like a prepared stream or anything. You're watching me do my job as I would normally do it. So just strap in. It's a little bit like, take strangers to work day. That's how I like to think of this. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the agenda that we're looking at is something that you have access to. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, check out the details section over there. If you're watching this on YouTube or Diode.zone, check out the description down below for a link. And if you're watching this on Twitch, it should be down in the channel details, a link to the agenda. And as I update the agenda, this little spinny thing will go, and then the agenda should be updated if you reload the page. So, if I add stuff and you want to click on a link or something, just wait for this little spinny thing to happen, which should happen every couple of seconds after I've made changes, and then reload the page and you'll get them. Okay, what are we working on today? Well, I put this. I realized that today's episode is occurring on Valentine's Day. So if you celebrate Valentine's Day, happy Valentine's Day. I wore some red today. I didn't have anything with like a whole bunch of hearts on it. I had one t-shirt with a heart on it, but it was in the wash and I didn't do the laundry in time. So I wore red. That was the best I could do. Happy Valentine's Day if you celebrate. What I wanted to start with actually was reviewing a patch, mainly because I'm also waiting for a build to finish. I'm doing the build of a debug build of Firefox on Windows, and it's almost done. And I'm thinking that by the time we're done our review here, it will be done, and then we can work on the other thing. But before I even get into that, I want to give an update on some things. So, update on Windows jump list, because that's kind of related to what I'm hoping to work on after the code review. So, you may recall that the Windows jump list stuff, we were working on it for basically all of 2023. It was, if you're not familiar, I'll just recap it. The Windows jump list is this thing. This is going to be like a 1-minute recap. This is, when you right-click on an item, this is a jump list. And we have one for Firefox that includes things like sites you've frequently visited and some important tasks that you might want to perform, like opening a tab, a window, or a private window or something. And the mechanism that we'd historically been using, and we've been using since the jump list was first introduced in Windows 7, was not very, what we would say, performant. It did main thread I/O. It was bad for responsiveness. Now, that's not to throw shade at the people who originally wrote it. I don't think they knew when they were writing this that the API does main thread I/O, because the I/O actually occurs in the Windows layer when we call into these mechanisms. And so, we noticed that there were hangs showing up in our background hang reports that get submitted from nightly users that had the jump list stuff on the stack. And so I spent a lot of 2023 designing an off main thread jump list backend, and we turned it on by default, I think about a month and a half ago or so, on nightly. And just Monday, I think it was Monday, I got sign off from QA. QA had been testing it for, I think, about a week, maybe a little over a week. And they found some low severity issues that were related to the jump list, but nothing that we would consider a blocker for letting it ride out. So I have flipped the pref, and unless we learn something new about its behavior on beta, it is set to go out in Firefox 124. And if we take a look at the what train is it now webpage, 124 Let's see. 124 will go out to release on March 19th. So that's actually not that long from now. Pwn to Own may affect our planned dot release date, because that happens on March 20th to 22nd. That's interesting. But March 19th is when that should, if all goes well, roll out to release. So if you were following along with the Windows jump list stuff, we're almost on the other side of it, where it actually gets into people's hands. So that's fairly exciting. So that's the update there. So let me write that down. Update Windows jump list. If all goes, got QA, got green QA sign off. If no surprises on beta, it will go out in enabled by default in Firefox 124 in mid-March. And then after a release or two, we can get rid of the old mechanism. So it's one of the nice ways of kind of the way it was architected. You could like switch between the old one and the new one, and we have the ability, for example, to, if we hear that the new mechanism, there's like some major problem with it, we can turn off the new mechanism and switch back to the old one. And so we'll hold on to that old mechanism for a little while, but once we're satisfied that it's doing the job, we can blow away the old mechanism, and that's great. So I'm very happy about that. Dennis, happy Valentine's Day. Yes. Oh, thank you very much for wishing me a happy Valentine's Day. Thank you. Okay. So that's the update on Windows jump list. And this bug later on is related, because this is like a little helper that the mechanism uses that also does main thread IO. It's not within the jump list code proper, but it's like a utility that a couple of things use, and this does main thread IO. And it would be really nice if we could get this off of the main thread as well. And then I think at that point the jump list is, the IO is completely off of the main thread, and that's great. So the first thing I wanted to do, though, is review a patch. The patch came in to me from a member of the onboarding team. The onboarding team, they're the people who manage this thing. Let me, what do I want to do here? Let's build. I'm going to pull the patch down and apply it because I want to poke at it. But if you've ever seen the About Welcome, which kind of looks like this, like the welcome screen, this is what we show to people whenever they are, they download Firefox for the first time, they've just installed it. We walk them through importing their stuff from another browser, setting their preferences, that sort of thing, maybe getting an add-on or something. And one of the things that we do is we offer to, do an importing, and so we show the migration wizard that, you may be familiar with. We show the migration wizard. And there is a bug here to make it possible to add, to do some UI tweaks. They want to try a couple of different variations of the migration wizard when it's in the sort of the About Welcome. They don't want to change the functionality. They want to change the appearance. So I think they're trying to simplify it and reduce some of the noise. There's there's no. It sometimes has a fold and unfold, but I guess by default by fold and unfold I mean this. Sorry, let me be clear. This sort of fold and unfold, and I think one of the things they want to do is they want to make that be tweakable. It's already, they can turn it on, turn it off, but they want to change the appearance a bit. And so I took a look a little bit at this patch today, but I wanted to finish the review on the stream. And so I'm basically going to start over. I'm going to start my review over again. It shouldn't take me too long, but one thing I haven't done yet is actually tried to use the patch. So the first thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to apply it. And the author, Jay Prickett, gives some instructions on how to test it. The patch creates an interface for messages to configure some of the elements of the migration wizard so that can be further customized for use in experiments. The most straightforward way to test this is to add the following screen to the screens array in About Welcome defaults, then visit About Welcome and navigate to the screen. And these are the different things that can be experimented with. What's interesting is that it's some things are turn on, turn off. Some of them are strings. And others are styles. This is being injected right into the CSS of the migration wizard. So And that's not super unusual. Like, you can see some CSS being put in here, some strings being put in here. That's kind of the point of these this mechanism, is to be able to sort of customize and set up the state of various components during onboarding, and to make it easy to experiment with. And so this is just trying to make the migration wizard have a couple of extra options for dealing with that. Now, I am no expert when it comes to the onboarding code. I'm actually not going to review anything under About Welcome. That's more for the realm of the OMC reviewers. I'm primarily concerned with the changes to the migration wizard that allow for the customization, as well as the test and the CSS. So I'm actually going to skip reviewing these three. I'm just going to review migrationwizard.mjs. That's the module that has the migration wizard defined in it, the test for it, and then the style sheet for the wizard. So let's get started. And did it apply properly? It did apply properly, so that's nice. So I'm gonna build it while we look at this. So the first thing he does is he adds a private property called headers, and then adds a bunch of classes to the markup. So the markup is defined inside of this template string, and he adds a bunch of classes. There's a migration wizard header class that seems to be shared in a couple of different places. Each of these divs, like div name, page selection, page loading, these are different states that the wizard can be in, and so I guess some of them have headers, and he's setting the headers there. Where's the next page? I want to make sure he gets all of the pages. Page progress. So is this one also supposed to be... This is another header. Is the progress header also supposed to be customizable? Or are we okay with the default string? There is another header. This is another header. Ooh, that's broken. Well, it's not broken, but we're missing a space there. Should get that fixed. It's not critical or anything, but it's good to know. This is another header. And this header. And this header. Like, I just want to double check. It's quite possible that we want these to keep their default strings. I just want to double check. There are similar ones below that I've marked. Feel free to close these issues if we're okay with the default strings in those states. You know what's really nice about this too is that we should be able to like add these to the storybook. And that's one thing I'm going to ask him to do is maybe we can create a storybook state where you can tweak each of these things so that you can actually see them inside of Storybook, because the migration wizard can exist within Storybook, and that would be nice. Okay, so he's got a headers property, a class. I'm going to one thing that'd be very... I have two requests. One, can we please add a storybook variant for the migration wizard that exposes these attributes so that we can test the different states. And the storybook is here. Dialog mode, template bind. Let me just see how this works. Template, HTML, fit, dialogue mode. You might need, yeah, you're gonna probably need to add more. You'll need to add more. You'll need to add some, need to add some new, add the new properties to the template used in Storybook here. I'm fine with this being a follow-up if you are pressed for time. We need to document these properties as well. That's the other thing that came to mind. Migration, I believe, has docs here. Migration wizard. We need to document these attributes here in here. Again, I'm fine with this being a fast follow up if you're pressed for time. A fast follow up. Okay, let's go. So we had a class for the buttons as well. Migration import button. The labels. This is also an import button. I think there's another one in here. There are more buttons. Where are they? That's the done one. Done button, migration canceled, done, continue. What is the string for this? Sorry, it's import select button, data LTN, migration Safari. What is the string? Select file. Okay, so that shouldn't be changed. Cancel request permissions. No browsers found. Import from file. Okay, so we probably want to leave those be. Okay, and then. So the resource type labels also get a class, that's fine. Then over here, we go ahead and just like hold on to these headers. Okay, and then anytime we're showing selection, we're gonna apply content customizations. That's on showing selection. Just when do we enter this? On showing selection. So we enter the selection page. And content customization. Oh, what's this? What is this? Okay. Inside a method called display selected resources, changes the selected data header text and selected data text based on how many resources are checked. Right, so one of the things we do is as you select items in here, we will change this string, and that's what this function does. And it looks more complicated than it is. Like it's quite complicated, and that's because of localization. We have to make this work for localization, so there's quite a bit of like backflipping that we need to do to make that work for different locales. And then get the import button. So this is where we would adjust the option expander title string. Otherwise, we go through here. I see. Okay. That seems okay. So that's like an override Option expander title string. That seems okay to me. This is what I was reading before I stopped reviewing this before. This is what's called whenever we show the selection page, and it's going to go through and see if there are any attributes on the root element that should be applied. And so what we do is we get all the labels, we get the selected data element. We check to see if we have the hide title attribute, and if so, then we hide the headers. Okay, I see. We go through the list of headers and we hide them. Otherwise, we don't hide them. If this has attribute hide option expander subtitle, then we will we'll hide. Okay. That's the expander subtitle is the part that's under here. So they're thinking of hiding that if that's set. And then we'll go through, we'll look at the selection page, and if we have hide select all, then we will toggle attribute hide select all, remove attribute hide select all. So there's already an attribute. Hang on. No, didn't mean that. Didn't mean to do that. Hide select all. No, there's not already an attribute. That's interesting. So I see. There's like, I see what's going on. Okay. So I have a suggestion. But let's keep going. We check to see whether or not there's an import button string, and if so, then we update the text content. That makes sense in here. Attribute checkbox margin inline. Now we're setting inline styles on the DOM. See, okay, here's what I'm going to suggest. If we have import button class, then we'll add an additional class. Import button class. Like, what would you do? Primary. Oh, to change the. Oh, I see. Okay, so here's what I'm going to suggest to the author. Very interesting. So there are a few things in here that make sense to do in script, like setting the, where do we set the string? Like setting the text content of the import button. And what's the other one? Setting the class on text content and class of the import button. There are other things here, however, that look like they'd maybe be more suited to being done in CSS. We can, for example, migration wizard.css. I think there are like host matching rules. We can use hide all headers without script using additional script using this CSS rule. So for example, he's doing hiding title and he's hiding all the headers. So host hide title. And then where are the headers called? What's the class? Migration Wizard header. Display none. Or what's he's doing dot hidden. Is that display none again? I can't remember. Let's see. I'm trying to remember what dot hidden does. Here's the header. Dot hidden equals true. Hidden. What? What does it mean to be hidden? I think we're probably inheriting some styles. Where do I see the inherited styles? Computed. Oh, I can see it's 0 by 0. It's display none. So yeah, hidden is display none. And now it's display block. So display none. I think that sort of thing makes better sense in our CSS. The more we can do with CSS and avoid script, the better. The more, generally speaking, the more we can do with CSS and avoid script, the better. It also means that it also generally simplifies things because we can get rid of headers. Since these have the selector migration wizard header, should these be hide headers? Class. Should this be hide headers or hide header for consistency? For the styles here, this in particular is a place where or doing what I'd recommend here instead of setting inline styles is to use script to set some CSS variables that are then used for the margins. I think, do we have an example of doing that in the migration wizard? Hold on, do we have variables? Set property val CSS set variable from script. How do you do that? It's set property. Oh, okay. My var. So if I find property. Here we go. So what we could do is like if we have the margins on the label of resource type labels, the margin, if we have the margins, what's up? Hey, I'm just saying hi to some people outside the door, some valued colleagues. If we have the margins on the labels default to some rule like this, line equals CSS. Sorry, I've already forgotten the class. I can't keep it in my head. Resource type label. Resource type label. Margin inline var inline margin. What is the default inline margin? Label. Margin block start. Layout. 0. So then if we then I think we should be able to set the property on all of those labels with this script. What was it? I probably want it on the shadow root, right? This dot shadow root. Does that work? Can you set style on the shadow root? Style. Shadow root style sheets. That's not quite right. Post.style set property. Shadow style. Root. Yeah, root. What's root? Query selector root. What's root in this case? Query selector. Hang on. Is it this? Like if I update, let's update one of these rules just for now. Let's say inline margin inline var test margin inline 0. Okay, so there's no variable there. And then if I set on the wizard test margin inline 5bx, there it is. There it is. See, I can do that. Okay, so this dot style set property, and then instead of URL bar scheme, it'll be like resource margin inline margin. This should reduce how much script we need to do these things, and also make it more apparent in our CSS that such customization is possible. I think same as above here regarding using a CSS variable and script to set the value of the variable on the root. Okay, now let's look at the tests. So I'm very happy that Jay Prickett added tests. Thanks for the tests. And I'm gonna just mark that as done. So hide title is true, set state. Go ahead and get the page and the titles. Make sure that the wizard has the hide title attribute. Sure, I mean, we set it here. I guess we're just making sure it wasn't removed. Okay, title's not hidden. Okay. Add task. Hide option expander. Same dealio. Set the attribute. Look at the subtitle. We set the state. Knit extra new line. Just make sure that thing's hidden. Update option expander title. Okay. Query selector. Kind of playing fast and loose with consts and lets. I will note we're being a little inconsistent here with const and let. In my generally speaking, I prefer to use let mainly because const often makes people think that the value being pointed at is immutable, when really it's just the variable that's immutable. The variable that's immutable. For example, MyAngularJS const my array equals that my array dot push 5. Perfectly legal since the array is still writable. On the expander string, test, set state. Well, that's nice. I would use a mutation condition. Remove the attribute. That's interesting that it gets removed right away. That's interesting. How does that work? I wouldn't expect that. In display selected resources, I'd think that that is racy. It's removed right away, considering that the method that does this is async. Title text not. Wait, what? Hold on. This construction is a little bizarre. Okay, not title text content not equal to test. I'm not 100% sure what this line is meaning to assert. Are you testing that the title text content Are you meaning to test that the title text content is no longer test? If so, you'll want okay, or not equal, or is not. I think you can use that, is not. Yeah. Title.text content test equal JS. Custom title. Is title the right? Resource selection expander subtitle was reverted. Yeah, there are a couple of places that maybe it would make more sense to use is. Has attribute, okay, hidden. Is that attribute? Okay, this, so nitpick is actually what I'll do instead of doing it like that is I'll do it like a suggestion is same thing down here, suggestion, instead also I don't expect it to pass after you've made that change, since the update of the string is asynchronous. You'll need to set state again and wait for the mutation condition. Okay. Selection, select all, hide select all is true. Set state, selection, select all is not displayed. Okay. Update import button string. Test. This should be is. Attribute. State, checkbox labels. Instead, if you go my route with the CSS custom CSS variable, you'll want to use get computed style instead to get at to compute the margin inline and margin block. I'm gonna guess this should probably not be checkbox margins and should instead be update import button class. Import button string, checkbox margins. Okay. So that's my review. I think. Thanks, Jay Prickett. Kudos on adding tests for this as well. I have 2 requests alongside the things I noted below. Request change and submit. Booyah shaka. PBZ's like, debike shed a bit. I wish we adopted const wherever possible. Feels much simpler to me. I also think it's more common across the industry. It's true. I mean, it's maybe a matter of taste. I kind of wish that if something was const, it actually was immutable. I've seen too many places where people have assumed that const means immutable when pointing at a non-primitive. Let's at least more truthful about it. The disadvantage of let is that you can accidentally overwrite the variable with another value. Pluses and minuses. The good news is, in the event that we decided we wanted to do a blanket conversion to const, we could probably do it using a mechanical rewrite. Just rewrite the entire Firefox front end in Rust should be easy, right? Oh, sign me up. Sounds fun. Sounds fun, gang. Okay, so that's the review. We did that. So, hopefully our build's done. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. What? Why isn't this build done? It's because I stacked two builds, one right after the other. I did a debug build, and then I stacked up an opt build on the off chance that they'd both be finished by the time I was done the review. The opt build is not yet done. I'm going to cancel it, but the debug build is done, and that's probably enough to work with. So let's go ahead and cancel that build, and we'll switch to, like, this is how I did that. Mock build. I was on the debug Moz config, and then I built, and then I went build with default, which is opt, and I did mock build. So I'm going to switch back to debug, and let's take a look at the bug that I'm referring to here. Favicon helper. Now, we talked about this a few weeks back. We started to investigate this. I even seem to recall writing a comment here, but let's start from the top. Favicon helper obtain cached icon file, does main thread IO and causes hangs. Not good. Favicon helper obtain showing up in BHR for causing hangs due to its main thread IO, and so it's in the winutils file. So it's like a utility, and it's used in a couple of different places. Like if we take, whoops, not search. I don't want to use SearchFox. Obtain cached icon file. We can see that it's used in Jump List Builder, the legacy Jump List item. So that's the new one that we built. This is the old one, and then there's something called NSDataObj that uses it. Now that file exists call in there is probably completely unnecessary. I'm not sure if it's possible to get rid of the get last modified time. And I think what we can do here is introduce a new method in Favicon helper. Favicon helper obtain cached icon file async. We can then transition the new jump list backend and this usage here, which already ignores the synchronous return value, to that new method. The new method can then do the existence testing statting on the IO thread rather than the main thread and call into a runnable with either the path to the cached favicon or an NS result reporting what's gone wrong. Then we can update Jump List Builder, obtain a cached favicon to return a promise instead and use our new backend. So that was my plan. I don't know if we're going to get that done, but we can start. So let's think this through. I'm going to start by creating a note for myself. New note. I like to copy the bug name and I'll put the URL in here. Okay. So here's my comment. Here's what I wrote in Bugzilla. Do a block quote. Can I do block quoting in here? Yeah. Okay. And then turn that off. That still seems like a solid plan. Let's break down how we'll do this. The first thing it says is that we're going to create a new method called favicon helper obtain cached icon file async. Let's quickly understand what. So let's start a new chapter or whatever, like H1. Let's quickly understand what this thing will need to do by examining the synchronous version. So obtain cached icon file. Let's read the source. It's not too long. 6, 10, okay. It's like 50 lines. And there's even a block quote. Amazing. So it's a static method. If the data is available, we'll synchronously return to the path on disk where the favicon for a favicon page URI is stored. If the favicon does not exist or its cache is expired, the method will kick off an async request for the icon, so the next time the method is called, it will be available. Okay, so it's like this fire and forget sort of thing where it's just like, hey, here's a favicon URI. Do you have this cached on the disk? And if we do, like we do synchronous disk reading to see if it's there, and if so, then like, here it is on the disk. Here's the path. Failing that, we queue up a job in the background to go and get it, and we return an error code to the caller. And then the next time you call, hopefully that background task has gotten the favicon and written it to disk, and then you'll get a success case. So it's like this hybrid synchronous, asynchronous thing. Hi, Shershak. Hi. I see there PVZ and Denshub are talking about Go and Rust. There's some like a spicy critique of Go there with oof from Dennis. I've never written Go. I've written a little bit of Rust. I'm not very good at it. I've never written any Go. They both arrived at around the same time, from what I can tell. Like they kind of hit the sort of the 1.0, hey, start using this in production at around what I thought of as like the same time, but maybe I'm misremembering. And but I've never had the opportunity or the reason to use Go. Maybe someday. I always go with Rust, says Danny Colin. That's not my joke. That's Danny Colin's joke. All credit where credit's due. That's a great pun. I'm going to play a sound for that.
Oh, yeah.
Hi-oh!
I can't do my work.
I just spill your beans.
Okay. Let's take a look at the... let's take a look at the signature of the original. It takes a URI for the favicon. I'm going to guess this is like an out param, the ICO file path. This is the thread that we want to do the background fetch on in the event that we're going to go get it in the background. A URL short to distinguish between jump list cache and shortcut cache. Ooh, so we have two different places where we might store these things. That's kind of awkward. And executed in the IO thread when the favicon cache is available. The runnable. So there's almost like this, you can pass this runnable that's like, hey, run this whenever the thing finally shows up. So again, it's like half synchronous, half asynchronous. And the first thing we do is we get the ICO file path, get output icon path, check if the file already exists. So I guess this is like something that we would calculate. Obtains the ICO path for the favicon at page at this URL. If successful, the file path on the disk is in the format some hash of the URI.ico. We generate the name with a cryptographically secure hash function in order to ensure that malicious websites can't intentionally craft URLs to collide with legitimate websites. Okay. That's good. So we use some hashing. And does this do I/O? We hash URI. I don't think that does I/O. Well, we get the local profile directory. Does this do I/O? We get the directory. I have a feeling this just gets... I don't think that does I/O until you actually manipulate it. I think that's just a lookup. And then you append a thing. I don't think this does I/O. Yes, we get a directory, but we don't do any operations on it. This is just a lookup, a static lookup of where a directory should be on the disk. So this is IO3, which is IO free, which is nice. it also occurs to me, like hash URI, what does this do? We get crypto hash. I don't know if you could run this off of the main thread. Maybe you could, but I think it's probably safe enough to not, like, it's probably not important to do that part off of the main thread. We can probably do that in the same thread, in the main thread. It's this part. We check to see if it exists, and if it does exist, then we return, we see whether or not it's expired. And if so, we go ahead and we like fetch it. Otherwise, it doesn't exist, go ahead and fetch it anyways. And if it does exist, we'll go ahead and get the path from it. So it's really this exists that does I/O. And getting the last modified time. I mean, I don't know. I would suspect that once you've done this I/O, this stuff is cached, but I could be wrong. This might do another stat to get the modified time. Okay, so I understand that, I think. Denshub, I believe, is reacting to Danny's joke positively. Thumbs up. So let's start by creating a new function signature. What'll this look like? Here's, oh, come on, code. Now, how do I even? Okay. Oh, that's how they want me to do it. As a result, favicon helper obtain cached icon file async. Now, is this exposed? How is this exposed? Do we do anything with the return value? We do in the original, or in the new jump list. We have this thing called obtain and cache favicon. And we write this out. So this is going to need to become async. And return a promise. What's this used for again? Obtain and cache. Obtain and cache. When do I... It's over here. For each custom URL, we'll obtain and cache it. And then we'll get the path back. That path will then be used to populate the list. I see. So this is going to become async. I think there's a way, it's like async map, MBN async map. No, map async. Array.prototype. What else you got? Okay. Okay, well, we're gonna have to change this then. Like, we're doing this fancy map thing. We're gonna do something different where we can await each one of these, because you can't await inside of a map function, I don't think. I thought for sure there was some kind of like, maybe it's a TC39 proposal. Async map, async iterator helpers, sync iterator from async iterator. Maybe that's what I want. And then async iterator. Object get async description for await. Async iterator prototype map. So from async next. Async array map. From async, that's what it's called. From async. And it's still, I think, in stage 3. So we don't actually have... This isn't something that... But this is what I was thinking of. Yeah, we don't get that. We don't have that just yet. Pretty sure. Oh, we do, since 1.15. Oh, that's interesting. So, is this, what is stage 3 again? Was this accepted? Conditional on editor review. It was shipped in 1.15. Interesting. Await array from async generator, but no error handling for sync iterables. I don't know if it's worth it to use the new fancy. It might be more readable to not use the new fancy. So let's not worry about this for now. I think we're getting rabbit holed. So we're going to accept the URI. There's not going to be a path out param right away. I'm considering not accepting an IO thread because, like, I think there's supposed to be a dedicated background thread. Background thread pool. Thread manager. Background thread pool. IO thread. BG IO thread pool. IO pool. Swap MIO pool. When's MIO pool used? Thread. Background event target. Dispatch. Dispatch on background event target. You can dispatch a runnable with flags, and the flags are like, it may block. If it may block, then use the IO pool. Okay, so that's what we'll use here. Background event target. Get current serial event target. And background event. Get current serial event target. I think that's what I want. Yeah, same one that IO Utils uses. M background event target equals. Sorry, I think I missed it. It's getter address create background task queue. Oh. No, that it has its own task queue. Can I just use like an IO Utils? I guess it's not really used from C++. IOTils makes a background event target. That is what you want to do. You make your own background event queue. It uses the same thread under the hood. Oh, okay. Okay. That's what you want to do. I want to make my own background event. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Barrett. What's the lifetime of this thing? Dispatch. Looks like... Yeah, okay. And WinUtils. Let's go back to WinUtils for a second here. Where's WinUtils? Yeah. Do we have any... What is the signature of this thing? Is it all static? Some runnables. Some static. So we might need like a static event queue. Background, thread. IO thread. I mean, here's the other thing that maybe will simplify things. I mean, we're already accepting a thread in the old caller, so we know that all of the existing callers pass one of these things. We might just like start by making it so that we still accept a thread to do this dispatch on. That's one way of doing it. It does mean that we end up spawning a thread, possibly, if the passed-in thread has been shut down. That probably would make Chris Wright sad. Also, this Boolean, I'm not super happy about. I kind of want this to be like an enum for the type obtain and cache. So cache type. And I want this to return what do I want this to return? The problem is that we have some consumers that are in C++, and then we have one that is being exposed to JavaScript. So if this returns a Moz promise, we're going to have to like convert it into a DOM promise. Or we're going to have to create a DOM promise and resolve that DOM promise when the Moz promise resolves. And I think I've done this before. No, I thought I've seen. There's a way you can like return a. There's like a promise wrapper. Like get a Moz promise from a DOM promise. DOM promise, Moz promise. Can we use convergence value rejection handlers so that native event error handlers can consume it? So like who does that? Let's see if anyone's done that before. Promise, try errors, cancel, passing in a result value. Okay, that's not what I wanted. It'd be kind of awkward if I have to make all consumers play the JS context game. I don't want to do that. Moz promise. What's the way you turn these into DOM promise? So you've heard of DOM promise. This feels familiar. I feel like I've looked into this before. Promise. When do you do DOM promise stuff? promise. You have to manually manage. I have to manually manage it, man. Are you serious? Are you sure that there's no like utility? I feel like this is the sort of thing that there's a utility for, that you can like, or like a wrapper. I feel like I've seen this. Where have I seen this? Where have I seen this? Why do you bring this in? Yeah, it's just in the headers, eh? Moz promise reject on... Oh, okay, hold on a second. Promise native handler. This feels familiar. Allows C++ to react to a promise being rejected or resolved. Promise. This is just to allow C++ to work properly with JS promises. JS DOM promises. Ah, use this to... This is what I remember. Use this to when you subscribe to a JS promise to settle a Moz promise. Wait, what? Does it work the other way? Reject on destruction. That's not exactly it, too. Alright, well, Barrett's right. I'm going to have to do this manually. Okay, so this is going to return a Moz promise. Let's see what that looks like whenever things return Moz promises. It's going to return a Moz promise, and then I think kind of like the maybe. A promise that returns a maybe. That's a kind of a rusty thing to do, but I kind of like it. A maybe might have some value or not be some value. I think instead of it being a maybe, I want it to be like a promise that returns some. Does that exist? No. Okay, maybe. It returns a maybe or an NS result. If it resolves, I guess it's going to be the value. Otherwise, it's going to be... What was the template again? It's like resolve value, reject value, is exclusive. Remind me again what is exclusive is. When is exclusive is true, the Moz promise does a release mode assertion that there is at least, at most, one call to either then or chain to. That seems right. That seems like a nice defensive thing to do. Here's documentation on Moz promises. Okay, so we're going to return a Moz promise that returns either an NS... Oh boy. Obtain, what was the signature? Obtain cached favicon. It's an NS string. It's either going to be an NS string reference, or if it rejects, it will be some kind of failure code. It'll never return NS error not available if there's no if we're on the way to getting it. In that case, we'll just wait until we've got it before we resolve with the string. So an NS result Any other examples of this? I guess not. Mall's promise. I can see strings being returned. C strings, S strings. So references are probably not what I want to do if I'm reading this correctly. I probably then want an NS string. An NS string. Oh yeah, this looks like the pattern. And then we declare it using session promise. This returns a ref. Okay, I like this. I like this. Using session promise. I'm going to call this obtain cached icon file async promise equals Moz promise, and that should be obtain. Then that's what this is going to return, a ref pointer to that. I am going to allow it to pass in the thread. That will be a follow-up bug where we maybe have all of the stuff use the shared thread pool, like the background thread pool. I just want to simplify. So that's going to be our signature. Nice. How do I need to get text under this. There we go. All right. So let's start there. Let's put our definition in. I should probably have had the build going in the, considering how long that took to just sort of think through that. I should have had the build going in the background, but I didn't. Okay, so obtain and cache. Obtain, what is it? Obtain cached. Seriously? That's not in winutils.h? Okay, we're just static winutils cpp. Obtain cached. Okay. So, we're going to do it right underneath. Might need to put this in the header. Return null pointer. For now, winutils.h. Using is it going to like this? Widget. Right? That's where it is. Widget. Winutils. Oh no, sorry, it's in Mozglue. It's in Mozglue. Well, that's enough though. Because yeah, it doesn't know what I'm talking about. Winutils.h. Is that what I'm supposed to do? And then winutils.cpp is over here. Let's move that. And cache type, I'm just going to have that be a bool for now. Let's build Mozglue. Let's build widget. Oh, the header. There is no header. Error, use of undeclared identifier. initialize return object with an R value of null pointer. Ref pointer is not an int. Line 1052. What is happening here? Is this declared somewhere else? Favicon helper obtained. Is there like a declaration I'm missing? Yeah, right here in WinUtils. Am I in the wrong WinUtils? I'm in the wrong WinUtils, gang. There's two things called WinUtils. There's one in MISC, Mozglue MISC, and there's one in Widget. Oh, wow. Okay, hilarious. So, obtain. And maybe instead of, I should be like type defing. What do I like? I like to do like type def moz promise. Something like that. Yeah. Obtain. Type def obtain. It's the other way around. And then we're going to put in our new signature. Static ref pointer of that async. It's going to take the URI. It's not going to accept the string. It will take that. It won't take the runnable. Right? We get rid of the runnable. Now, what do you think about that? Widget. You should type def the promise type. Did we? Yes. Sorry, I'm agreeing with you, Barrett, and I did it. I happened to have already had that same instinct, and I dig it. Okay, so unknown type, it doesn't know what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah, sorry, I've got to use favicon helper. Sure. I guess I could say using. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say using favicon helper at the top of this. Whoops. Widget. Favicon helper. What's it called? Okay. So we've got it building. The next thing I wanted to do is I want to, instead of using a Boolean, I feel like it'd be better if there was an enum for these different like cache types. I'd feel better about that. So let me just remind myself. Enum class, pointer capabilities, enum. This thing, yeah. Obtain enum class. Okay, I'll say it's a icon cache store. UN. Doesn't need to be 32 bits. And we'll say that it's like there are two of them. Here's the jump list store. Icon cache dir. Jump list dir. And shortcut dir. Cache dir is 2. And then you'll take an icon cache. Cache dir. A cache dir. What do you think about that? Ooh. Using declaration cannot refer to a class member. Using alias declaration. Did you mean do I have to say I'm using the favicon helper instead, and I just get it for free? Maybe that's what it means. I've forgotten how to C++, everybody. Ah! Still not a fan. Unknown type name. Did I mean that? Well, I'm bored of the of this particular problem, so I'm gonna say favicon helper, and we'll deal with the other thing, the namespacing later. Just build it. Okay. The next step is we're gonna set this up to be documented. Because that seems to be a good idea. And then we have to return a Moz promise of the type that we just declared. Create and resolve, create and reject. Do we ever just have like create? Create and reject, create and resolve, create and resolve. Manifest, check root manifest, then return. Where's the creation I basically need to see how you create one of these things. Oops. I guess you just construct it. New Moz promise. Is that how it works? Probably. New promise holder. Oh. New Moz promise private. You get a holder. And the promise. You ensure it. Raw holder. Ensure. Constant encapsulated promise for a particular role uses the member variable for a class whose method returns a promise. Okay. Except that we're not a method. We're not a member variable. We're not maintaining any state. So that's a problem. We're in a static method. I guess you could have a static member, but that's... You might get a bunch of these concurrently. Here's a static. Okay. Collect strong methods. Internal. Ooh, nice syntax. Promise holder ensure function. Okay, so it seems like... Oh, that's just forwarding to a thing. That's no good. That's no good. What does that mean? Private. Let's promise private. Allows us to separate the public interface upon which consumers of the promise may invoke methods like then from the private interface upon which the creator of the promise may invoke, resolve, or reject. APIs should create and store a Moz promise. APIs should create and store a Moz promise private, usually via a Moz promise holder, and return a Moz promise to consumers. I see. Interesting. Make ref pointer. Promise private function. What I want to do is I want to create a promise holder that's not a member variable. I want to pass the holder. So we kind of have this example in other jump list things, jump lists builder, where I create a holder that gets passed to the other thread, and the other thread keeps it alive. Thread pointer handle. Oops. Except no. DOM promise. Here's a promise. Promise. Using DOM promise. I think I need to learn more about Ma's Promise. And I think I might have to call it soon. Whereas JS Promise calls for doing about text, Promise resolution rejection makes normal round trip through the event loop, simplifies the ordering semantics. Ma's Promise is attempt to mirror the spirit of JS Promises. Ma's Promise is thread safe and may be then on any thread. That's good. Then call accepts, resolve, and reject callbacks to the magic object. Converting to a Ma's Promise, which is called a completion promise. When converting to a Ma's Promise request, it allows the caller to cancel the delivery of the resolve reject value if it has not already occurred via disconnect. Okay. Some magic powers there. When converting a Ma's Promise, allows promise chaining. Allows Promise API skirt traditional XPCOM conventions by returning as ref pointers rather than already add ref, or various methods is done to allow looking chaining calls without cluttering up the code with intermediate variables and without introducing separate API variants for callers that want to return value from those that don't. Okay. Do you use it? How do you use it? Test. Oh, beautiful. Let's look at tests. That's a great idea. Okay, so here's a test. Create a task queue. Test a promise. You create and resolve. All right. Create and reject. Create and resolve. Create and reject. Here we create one that doesn't do anything necessarily. So that's probably our model, that we start here. And then, okay. So we're going to return a promise. So ref pointer promise. Nope. I want the return value to be paid promise. Print promise. Ma's promise. DOM. What's this? DOM Ma's promise request holder. What's this? This promise request holder, the auto discount. So if you have a ref pointer DOM promise, create a promise. Create a DOM Ma's promise request holder, global. Oh. When Ma's promises are being consumed by binding layer code. Holder. That's handy. Maybe. That might be handy for the XPCOM part when we expose this to XPCOM. So this might be handy. This might be handy when we work on the XPCOM exposure of this method. Okay, that's good. I think what I want is like private func. Seriously? I've definitely seen promise holder ensure private throttle promise holder ensure so Moz promise, okay. M promise holder, and M promise holder is Moz promise holder, Moz promise holder extends Moz promise holder base. I'm going in circles here, gang. Moz promise holder. Bool promise generic, sure. Is there like here holder? I think this is the form that we want. And instead of doing this move, we're gonna okay. I know what I want to do. This is the form. This looks right. So, Moz promise holder. Again, I gotta figure out that namespacing thing. We're gonna create a holder, and then we're gonna create the promise. Ref pointer. Promise equals holder ensure func. Okay, we're going to ensure some func here. Then we're going to return promise.forget. Does that compile? What time is it? Hope I'm not going to be late for a thing. Hold on a second. I think there's like... I'm okay. I'm okay, gang. I'm okay. Let's go for a little bit longer. I'd like to make a little more forward progress on this. It builds, that's good. And then this is where I want to like dispatch a runnable and move the holder to the other thread, the IO thread. Get output icon path. If I remember correctly, we determined that this does not do IO. It calculates what the file should be, but it doesn't do IO to verify that the file exists. So we're gonna get the path. Let's do that still. Obtain the file path that the ICO, if it exists, is expected to be at for a favicon page URI. A URL shortcut is supposed to be true if using shortcut cache. Bool use shortcut cache dir equals a cache dir equals favicon helper icon cache dir. What was the shortcut cache dir? Okay. Now, in the event that if ns failed, rv, we're going to want to return and reject the promise. Create and reject. Create and reject. Create and reject rv func. Does that build? Let's get funky. That's right. Okay. Then we're going to, at that point, we're ready. Like, we know that we didn't fail to calculate a path. We're not going to check for existence. We're going to spawn up our worker, or like our task now. And the way we're going to do that is dispatch. So we did this in Jumpless Builder, but I think we can do better. Dispatch new runnable function. Yeah. Dispatch not to main thread, dispatch to, where was I? New runnable function. Okay, fine. New runnable function. Yeah, we'll use this form. So, favicon helpers, winutils. We'll say AIO thread dispatch. Call it favicon helper obtain cached icon file async. I actually think that we had a nice way of doing that. No? Okay, never mind. Okay. Promise holder, standard move, holder. Okay. So this is where we're going to do all our magic in here. Moz promise holder. I don't want to see the usage of this again. Where did we start? Yeah, here. And pending data requests. When do those get used? Get it. We get the holder and then we resolve with the data. Okay. So over here, we can do our I/O now. So we can check to see if the file, oh, it's gonna give me, can I pass the ICO file? Can I pass NSI file? I got a feeling no. Why not? No one else is going to be using it. If I forget about it, if I move it, I think that should be okay. So I'm going to need to move the ICO file. Can I do that? And then I'm just going to say, yeah, promise holder, let's resolve, dot resolve. Null pointer func. Can I do that? I don't know. I don't know. Let's see if it builds, but you can pass com pointer NSI file across threads. Okay. Don't believe you can access it concurrently from multiple threads. Okay. Well, good, because I don't want to. I don't want to access it concurrently. No matching member function for call to resolve on promise holder. Candidate function template not viable. No known conversion from... Oh, right. I need to pass it an NS result. Or a string, rather. Resolve. I'm just going to reject as error failure. And then I'm probably going to stop there. If this builds, I'm going to stop there. And then we can... No matching function for call to reject. No conversion from constant mouse promise has result true, aka promise holder. I have a promise holder. Reject. Reject. C++ promises. Reject value, method name. Candidate function not viable. No conversion from, and then a bunch of templating, aka const Mozilla mouse promise holder string as result true to string as result true. String as result true for object argument. Conversion from. So this const Mozilla. So what do they match? Moz promise holder base. Promise string charge 16t as result true. For Modest promise holder. This is aka const. Const. Does it need to be const? So, modest promise string char 16t as result true. Does it need to be const? What? It's age 1402. Reject. Const. That's. I also notice there are two terms here. One, two. I am confused. Let's look at some examples of mods promise holder. Graph started promise. What is that? Or generic promise, rather. Graph started promise is a generic promise. A generic promise is a bool NS result. Okay. Promise is H ensured. The promise holder is H. Standard move H. We've run ensure, right? Ensure, yes. Holder ensure. That's the promise. And then we move. And then we take the holder. And we say reject. As error not available. What am I missing? What am I missing, everybody? Standard move. What am I missing? What happens if I just do this? Is it a problem with the way that the other thread works? Something with the graph promise? There is no graph promise. I'm not sure. Okay. It's happy with that. It's as soon as I move it, like new runnable function. I think that's where things start falling over for me. Runnable function promise. New runnable function. Is there a holder? promise. Reinterpret cast. Get the promise. Promise is a JS promise? Need to see a Moz promise being used inside one of these things. Jeez. Holder. Standard move. No. 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 Maybe. No. Here we go. Here we go. Holder, Moz promise holder. Make unique. Moz promise holder, proc info promise. Then we ensure it. We move it. Resolve or reject. What does that mean? Is that what I'm supposed to be doing instead? Resolve or reject. What does it mean to resolve or reject? Try to pass reject value. They seem opposed to one another. What does it mean to resolve or reject? Resolve or reject. A value. A value. Standard forward. Well, let's see what happens if I call resolve or reject. I don't know what it means, but resolve or reject. Does it like that better? All right, I'm gonna have to call it here. Hey, thank you so much, everybody, for watching episode 355 of The Joy of Coding. This has been a very interesting. No, it doesn't like it. It doesn't like it. Oh, because it's called promise holder now when it's in this function. Thanks for watching. Next time I stream, let's try and I'm gonna do a little bit of no, you know what? I'm not gonna do any deep diving. I want you to see me do the deep diving and learn about how these Moz promises work. Because like no matching function call. I don't know how any of this works. We're gonna figure it out together. I don't think I've ever worked with Moz promises before, or if I have, I've completely forgotten. So we're gonna figure it out next week. Let's make that a goal. So first of all, I'm gonna commit what I've got so far. That's for this bug such and such whip. Add an async version of obtain. What's it called? Obtain cached icon file. Icon helper. Obtain and cache icon file. All right, and we will work on that next week. Thanks, everybody. Have yourselves a great week, and hopefully see you soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.